In this episode, I'm going to talk about glutathione. Now, glutathione, you may already know what it is if you've read my book or have listened to previous episodes. Glutathione is the primary antioxidant in the body. It's also known as the master antioxidant of the cell. It has many critical jobs to do to keep us alive. So it supports the immune system and the nervous system. It supports the gastrointestinal tract and the lungs. It helps to bind toxic metals and chemicals so that they can be excreted either in the bile or in the urine. It helps to recycle other antioxidants such as vitamin C, vitamin E. It supports DNA synthesis and repair. So many jobs. Without glutathione, we would not be alive. And what's the relevance to autism? So during the research for my book, I came across many studies where the researchers found that the autistic children groups in the studies tended to have lower or depleted glutathione compared to their peers in the studies, right? So what that means is that autistic children often have lower levels of this antioxidant. And when you have lower levels of this antioxidant glutathione in the body, it predisposes you to more damage due to free radicals, oxidative stress, toxic metals and chemicals, in bacterial, yeast infections, things like that. So it also impairs the immune system to an extent, right? So what's the key takeaway here? You need to understand quickly if your child's glutathione status is depleted and begin to support them with the nutrients that are required to produce glutathione in the body. So how do you test your child's glutathione status? There are not many blood tests that are accessible and cost effective on the market for glutathione status, but as I've talked about before, the organic acids test, which is a urine test that you can collect at home and ship to the lab, it has a couple of markers for glutathione status. So when those markers are elevated, it can tell you that your child is either under increased stress in terms of toxic substances. So that could be, again, heavy metals, chemicals. It could be, bacterial metabolites, things like that, oxidative stress. It can also tell you that your child is not getting enough of the building blocks of glutathione in order to produce it. So it could be a double kind of situation, either increased toxic burden or impaired production due to not enough substrates coming in. So if that is the case for your child, what you would then do is you would begin to supplement with amino acids which glutathione is built with. So it's basically there's 3 amino acids in glutathione. It's a 3 amino acid molecule. One of them is glutamate or glutamic acid. The other one is glycine, and the last one is cysteine. So you can buy in powder form glycine, and you can also buy cysteine, or it's actually N-acetylcysteine, NAC, right? So if your child's glutathione status is low, you would start with NAC. Of course, your practitioner would recommend how to go about it, but you would start with some NAC, and then you might want to add some glycine, because studies have shown that when you add NAC, when you give a person NAC, their glutathione status does improve, because generally cysteine, it's the rate limiting amino acid in glutathione synthesis. So it means that it's generally the one that there's not enough of for the body to make more glutathione. So when you add that through the diet, the body has more building blocks to start building this glutathione molecule where it's needed. So that one piece of the puzzle, right? Understanding whether your child's glutathione status is low, adding the amino acid substrates that are required to make this antioxidant. But the other piece of the puzzle is very important, and I, of course, will keep reiterating that as often as I can. That is reducing the factors that cause your child's glutathione status to get depleted, right? So as I already mentioned, things like toxic metals, chemicals, bacterial and yeast infections, these kind of things, they basically increase the need for antioxidants in the body. So what you need to do is clean up your child's diet. So as I have mentioned before, organic foods, greatly decrease the synthetic chemicals, pesticides, herbicides, and things like that put a stress on the body. So you'll be reducing that stress. So that's extremely important and something every family can do. Filtering your water, make sure your child's water is pristinely clean. You want to have things like, basically tap water can have a ton of copper, all sorts of agricultural runoff. Obviously, they put chlorine in it, which is toxic. It's also toxic to the bacteria in the gut. Fluoride in many regions is also added, things like that. So these are all things that need to be detoxified by the body, right? So that increases the need for glutathione. So those are super important. So clean food and water, this should go without saying, but common knowledge is not always common practice, right? Now, the other thing that you need to do is, if your child has yeast or bacterial overgrowths or infections, you want to understand if that's the case, right? So something like the organic acids test or a stool test can tell you whether there's some parasites, bacteria, yeast, things like that. So running some type of pathogen test is extremely important, because pathogens, they create all sorts of toxic byproducts that obviously need to be detoxified. So the glutathione demand increases in the body. But the other thing they do is they activate the immune system, which can cause chronic low-grade inflammation, which is, it's a detrimental process in the body. So you want to arrest that as much as possible. You want to reduce that as much as possible. So that was a quick overview of what glutathione is, what can deplete it in the body, how to test for it, and what amino acid supplements you can use to support your child's glutathione production. So I hope you found this episode useful, and I hope to see you on the next one.